Princesses danced until dawn. This particular tale concerns a king who had 12 beautiful daughters, 12 pairs of worn-out dancing shoes, and a great mystery to solve. It's called The 12 Dancing Princesses. There was once a king who had 12 daughters, each one as clever and beautiful as the next. He loved them all dearly, but was puzzled by a mystery that happened night after night. Every evening, the king would tenderly kiss his daughters and settle them down to sleep in the long bedchamber they shared. He then tiptoed out, always taking care to lock and bolt the door behind him. Yet every morning the princesses were tired and wan, and their silken shoes were danced to pieces. Where did they go each night? And how did they leave their room? The king was determined to solve the mystery. For one thing, 12 new pairs of dancing slippers a day was costing him a fortune. The princesses were certainly not telling, so the king issued a proclamation. Any man who could discover their secret would marry one of the princesses and rule the kingdom with her on the king's death. But he must find the answer in 3 days and 3 nights, or be banished from the kingdom forever. Marry one of the beautiful princesses and become king. You can imagine that it wasn't long before most of the young men in the kingdom were queuing up at the palace gates to try their luck. The first to try was the son of a king. He was enchanted by the 12 young women, and when the eldest offered him a cup of sweet cordial, he happily drank it. Then, when the princesses had gone to their room, he checked that their bedroom door had been left ajar and settled down to his night-long vigil. But however hard he struggled, the prince could not keep his eyes open. He was overcome by sleep, and suddenly it was morning. There in their beds were the 12 princesses sleeping soundly, and there were the 12 pairs of worn-out slippers, the evidence of failure. The second night, the same sweet cordial, the same overwhelming need to sleep, and the same failure. And again the third night. The young prince was duly banished from the kingdom, and another suitor took up the challenge. And so it continued. The king was in despair. Sometime later, a poor soldier, returning wounded from a battle in a faraway country, sat down to rest by the side of a road. He was enjoying his simple meal of bread and cheese when an old woman approached, and, because the soldier was a kind man, he offered her half his lunch. "Where are you heading?" the old woman asked. The soldier laughed. "Well, I'm off to try my luck at the palace," he said. "I could quite fancy being king." But the old woman remained serious. "Don't touch the cordial those clever girls offer you. Just pretend to drink, then pretend to fall asleep. And if you wear this cloak, you'll become invisible and be able to follow them wherever they go." The soldier was puzzled, but he thanked the strange old woman, took the cloak, and set off for the palace. By now, the king had given up hope of solving his daughter's secret, but he greeted the soldier courteously. And so, when bedtime came, the soldier was led to the princess's bedchamber. The eldest princess offered him a cup of cordial, and the soldier pretended to sip, and to sip some more. The cordial did not run down his throat, but into a small sponge he'd cleverly tied under his chin. Then, as if overcome by tiredness, the soldier yawned loudly and rolled over onto his bed. "Silly fool," said the eldest princess. And laughing merrily, the 12 sisters danced into their room to prepare for the night ahead. They curled and plaited each other's hair, painted lips and powdered faces, ruffled fans, and finally every princess slipped on a new pair of dancing shoes. Only the youngest could not enjoy herself. "Something feels wrong tonight," she said. But her eldest sister, impatient to be off, told her not to be a silly goose and clapped her hands 3 times. A door appeared in the wall and slowly swung open, and the 12 princesses disappeared. The soldier clambered from his bed and hurried after them, flinging his magic cloak around his shoulders as he went. But in his haste, he stumbled on his wounded leg and stepped on the hem of the youngest princess's dress. "What was that?" she cried. "Someone's following us. I know something's not right tonight." "Nonsense," said her eldest sister. But the youngest sensed something all the same and kept glancing over her shoulder as they made their way down the flights of stairs and along the corridors. Finally, they arrived at a small wooden door. This opened out onto a garden. The soldier drew his breath. He had never seen such a magical place. The princesses hurried through the silvery trees, which glimmered in the moonlight. They came to a garden of gold, where plump, delicious fruits hung down from the branches, burnished and bronzed. Then they stepped through an arch of roses into a third garden, all of diamonds, which sparkled and shimmered in the dark like a spangled sky of stars. In each garden, the soldier felt he must be dreaming and reached up to snap off a twig just to be sure. An avenue of diamond-studded trees led down to a lake, and there on the water bobbed 12 little painted boats. In each sat a handsome prince, waiting to row the princesses across the water. The soldier, growing used to this strange and magical world by now, climbed into the boat with the youngest princess, taking care to cover himself completely with his invisible cloak. After a while, the little prince rowing the boat stopped to rest. "Why is this boat so slow tonight when I'm rowing as hard as I always do?" The youngest sister only shivered in reply. Across the lake stood a wonderful castle. Lights shone from every window, urging all to join the party. The princesses ran up to the castle and danced with their princes all through the night. The soldier, hidden safely in his cloak, danced alone, weaving amongst the couples and stealing morsels of food from under the noses of the unseeing guests. Once, feeling very bold, he took a sip from the youngest princess's goblet. "Now someone is helping themselves to my drink," she said, almost in tears. But her eldest sister, whirling past, only laughed at her. "Oh, do stop worrying and come and dance. We've only a few hours left." And sure enough, their slippers were soon so worn through that they could not be danced in a minute longer. It was time for the princesses to go home. The princes rowed the sisters back across the lake, and this time the soldier travelled with the eldest princess. All the young women were beautiful in their own ways, but she was the most interesting to him. The princesses promised to meet their princes the following night and hurried back through the 3 gardens and along the palace passageways. The soldier slipped past them in his cloak. And by the time the princesses peeped through his door, he was lying in his bed, apparently fast asleep and snoring gently. "Oh, silly fool," yawned the eldest princess, "but our secret is still safe." And she lingered a moment, watching him as he slept. The next morning, the soldier felt sure it had all been a dream, in spite of the 3 twigs he had picked up from the gardens. He decided to keep his vigil once more before seeing the king. The second night was exactly like the first, and the soldier enjoyed himself so much he couldn't resist following the princesses for a 3rd night of dancing and feasting. This last time, he came away with a golden goblet under his cloak as further proof. On the 4th morning, the king wearily summoned the soldier to his study. "Have you discovered how my daughters wear out their slippers every night?" "I have, your majesty," replied the soldier. "They dance the night away in an underground castle with 12 handsome princes." And he produced from his pockets the 3 twigs and the golden goblet, as he explained about the hidden door, the 3 gardens, the lake, and the castle. The king called for each of his daughters in turn and asked whether the soldier's story was true. Each princess hung her head in silence until the eldest one spoke. "Father, it is true," she replied. "The soldier has outwitted us." "Then you must decide which of my daughters you wish to marry," said the king. The soldier knew that he had already chosen the eldest. She saw that the soldier was kind as well as clever and was pleased to accept. "Just provided," she said with a smile, "that we can have plenty of dancing at the wedding." The wedding took place soon afterwards, and they danced the night away. When, sometime later, the old king died, the princess and the soldier ruled the kingdom together fairly and happily for many years. And as the queen, the eldest sister decreed that she and her sisters should go dancing as often and as late into the night as they wished. And she appointed a royal shoemaker to keep their dancing shoes in good repair. So, keep an eye on your brothers and sisters at night, won't you? And watch out for worn-out shoes. See you.
One, two, three, hit it!
Rhythm, melody, and lyrics.
That's it, we've got it.
Build music tracks from scratch with Kerry, David, and Rich.
So, what kind of music do you like?